Welcome back. This segment of the Sports Source is brought to you by Safety Systems. That's home security systems, office security systems, life safety systems, fire safety systems. Safety Systems can install the very best systems in each of those categories, and they handle the routine testing, which fire safety systems, they have to be tested once a year at least. They handle the testing for you. They do maintenance on them and do all kinds of work. Safety Systems. Call VFL J.J. Surlis this week and ask him about home security, office security, life safety systems, fire safety systems. I believe in Safety Systems. I've been using them for years. They do great work. All right, this segment of the Sports Source, we are taking a look at Tennessee's opponents for the year, and we're ranking likeliest win to least likely win. You see that Vandy was the likeliest, followed by Arkansas, Missouri, Kentucky, South Carolina. Now we're in the tough part. All these teams on Tennessee's schedule start the season in the top 15. By the way, Mitch mentioned this earlier, Tennessee would have been number 26 if you count. They were just one slot outside the coaches' top 25 that came out this week. So it's not like Tennessee's way off the mark here. So when you're talking about top 15, you were ranked 26th. What's next up? What is the most likely victory of the remaining teams? A&M, at Georgia, Florida, at Auburn, Alabama. We're going Auburn or A&M here?
I like Bo Nix, but Auburn's offensive line is really not great. And I think Tennessee, their pass rushers could have a really big day against those guys. Again, I think you have to throw out home away, just in general. So I'm going to go Auburn.
I also think if you look at your offensive line, can they be as good and be a controlling factor? Then you start looking at who has a more high-power offense than saying that you can stay in a low-scoring game potentially with that offensive line and be able to run it and ground it out. So, yeah, I kind of look at Texas A&M having a little more firepower, I think, than Auburn does in the offense. So I think Auburn's your easier game to win.
Okay.
Yeah, same answer. Bo Nix, younger quarterback. This could be a Jeremy Pruitt goes and wins you a game, kind of like a couple years ago. They got turnovers, were able to create some defensive pressure against a young quarterback. They could do that again.
Yes, although Jarrett Stidham has a big, bright, pro-future ahead of him with the New England Patriots.
Nobody questions.
Yeah, I'm sure. All right, so are we going Texas A&M next? Can I just go ahead and say, or do we see Florida, Georgia, or Alabama falling before Texas A&M? I would go A&M.
Yeah, you got to go A&M. A&M, all the pieces to be great, and yet
Haven't done it yet.
8-4, 9-3 every year. It's confounding, but yeah, if you're comparing them to the other teams, got to go A&M.
Everybody agree with that?
Yep.
Now, I can say this. All this could change based on when they have to play any of these teams, right? That would change this entire line.
Oh, don't think we won't be doing the same thing.
Just a weekly tradition now.
Trust me. All right, so that leaves Alabama, Georgia, Florida. What's your next most likely win? Is it the Gators? Is it Georgia? Is it Bama?
I think it's Georgia in this case. I just think I see what Florida has, the defense coming back there. Alabama's Alabama at this point. So I see Georgia, of those teams left, you've had some success at times against Georgia when you weren't supposed to. So that leads me to say that Georgia's the next one you're likely
to me,
win.
this is the flip side of the Kentucky argument. No matter how good Kentucky is, Tennessee finds a way to beat them. No matter what Tennessee brings to the table or how bad Florida is, Florida finds a way to beat Tennessee. So I would say that Georgia would be more likely than Florida.
Yeah, I thought we were going to have enough disagreement on this that we might get additional time in the penalty box, but I'm with you on Georgia. I think all that resetting, again, home away, I think you throw it out. All that resetting, a brand new offense and Todd Monken that's had no time to really do anything. New quarterbacks, they lost a ton on the offensive line. I think they'll be fine on defense, but they lost a bunch of guys on defense. And even though I'm a big Todd Monken proponent, Todd Monken traditionally has been able to, install his offense on the field, and they're not going to have that much opportunity. So, yeah, I think Georgia is number 3 on there.
All right, Josh, are we all crazy?
Is it bad TV if I say I don't know?
Yes. Don't count.
I would probably go Florida, but I wouldn't fight for it. And everything they're saying on Georgia is right. If it were a typical offseason with Monken having a full setup and talented quarterbacks, just everything they have in their roster, I would say Georgia's unbeatable, but not this year. So I'll go with Georgia with the other guys.
Okay, so that leaves Florida or Alabama. Now, Alabama only won 6 SEC games last year. Their defense wasn't as good last year. I'm trying to make this more interesting than it is. Florida's next, right? You're more likely to beat Florida than Alabama? Everybody agree with that?
In theory, I mean, if you only watch the 2019 season, you might disagree, but
Yeah.
it's a tough.
I'm
it's a tough
not
call.
there.
Okay.
I'd say right now I put it Florida. I'd say Florida's the most difficult, the least likely team that you'd play that you're going to beat. And I just put it that I've seen it the last couple of years that one, you don't play well against these guys. You as much as Kentucky is the way with us, we're that way with Florida. And I look at that and then I say, okay, that team matching up mobile quarterbacks, things like that, they're going to have, we don't do well against traditionally. So I'd say as least likely as I think you're going to beat Alabama, I think you're even less likely to beat Florida.
And I would also argue that through 2 years, this may change down the road, but through 2 years, Mullen has done more with what he had at Florida than Pruitt has done with what he had at Tennessee.
Certainly
There's
head
just
to head.
not much argument to that, I don't think. Mullen has overachieved both years. You could say that Pruitt overachieved last year with the run he went on, but it's an underachievement when you open the year with losses to Georgia State and BYU. So I think Florida's tougher than normally. I would still say, though, that Alabama is my number one toughest, personally. So we got an Alabama, we got a Florida.
I'd probably say Alabama, but I think Florida. You know, do you have an elite?
Alabama's toughest? Or
Yeah,
Alabama's
Alabama the
next easy?
toughest. Alabama the toughest.
Okay.
I think, you know, Florida, with all they have in that front seven, you know, Tennessee wants to believe they have an elite offensive line going into this season. No matter when you play Florida, Florida will tell you if you do. I mean, you look at all the guys they have in that front seven; it is crazy. And so, you know, there'll be an interesting test for you. I think I think Florida has the best front seven in the SEC, and I think they'll tell you a lot about who you are.
And I think that's the reason why I go with Florida is just because I think Tennessee offensive line, if they have what they have, Alabama's offense, we still haven't seen them with all the wide receivers they've lost and everybody. Are they going to be able to be a 30-point, 40-point kind of scoring team? That would be the team you wouldn't want to play against. Dan Mullen, with his offense at times, has been able to show that with his group to be able to get in a race, a scoring game. I just believe that with Florida, you're going to have a lot more trouble and a lot less likely to win, where you could keep it close against an Alabama game. Who knows what happens?
Okay, we got two guys saying that Alabama's the toughest game. We got one guy saying Florida's the toughest game. Josh, I'm going to let you make the call. If it's a tie, we're going to go with Florida.
Okay. Also, to Will's point, there's probably more pressure against Florida because there's this belief or expectation that you should be able to compete with the Gators, that you should have a chance to win. With Alabama, you haven't beaten Saban with him as the head coach. So what kind of pressure do you have against Alabama? All that being said, I'm going with Alabama as the toughest.
Okay. So, Florida's the 9th likeliest. Alabama's the 10th likeliest. Let's go ahead and show you. This is the way we see it without knowing the dates of the games. Vanderbilt easiest, followed by Arkansas, Missouri likely, Kentucky likely, South Carolina likely. Then next at Auburn. Next likely is A&M. Then it gets tougher to Georgia, Florida, Alabama. All right. So, having looked at that, when we come back, what's a good record? What is a good season for Tennessee against this bunch? And will our view of what a good season is match what fans will accept? We'll discuss that next on the Sports Source. Come on back.